Hi there, and welcome to another episode of The Conversation with Kelly Diamond. This is my 30th episode, if you can believe it. Anyway, you can catch me every Thursday at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. You can also catch my written word every Monday at globalwealthprotection.com. So this week's Facebook event, and it's almost like what I need to do is just go into Facebook and get into some sort of verbal brawl. And then come over here and tell you all about it. That's what I feel like I've been doing lately. But issues come up, and then it gets me thinking. And I really need to get out of this group. But anyway, I'm in this political group, and it always comes down to partisanship. And I'll tell you, if there's one wonderful reason to abandon the state, it's to get the hell away from all the party bullshit. Oh my God. Everybody's a racist, first of all. Okay. Just so you know, everyone's a racist, in case you were wondering. If you're watching this, chances are you're a racist. And homophobe, and, all those horrible things. You're every pejorative we could come up with. And you hate people's freedoms, it really doesn't matter. If the point is, the idea that if you don't take an interest in politics still takes an interest in you is true. And the way it takes an interest in you typically is that it starts to accuse you of things just to create a divide and pit one against the other, as if there were really any solid, substantive, ideological distinction between liberals and conservatives at this point, Democrats and Republicans. And it's not to say that the libertarian movement or the libertarian sector doesn't have its share of partisanship as well. But where there's partisanship, there is collectivist speech, there is collectivism. And of course, with surfacing of these police brutality cases, okay, which, by the way, I will condemn to my grave. Okay, I condemn it. The end of the story. That's not even a debatable issue with me. Okay, the idea that any one person would presume to be an authority over another person. Okay, I'm going to take this time out to explain just how deep-seated my resentment is for police brutality. That any individual, not just a police officer, not just someone claiming to be a police officer, but any individual would claim authority over another individual human being, then claim a monopoly of violence and force over that person, to where if the person were to try and defend themselves, they would be somehow systemically justified in being punished more. That it's acceptable then for that self-proclaimed authority to then be more punitive on this person, you punish this person even more. And the purpose of all of this is cloaked under this rather shallow attempt at a noble cause. I don't care if you're trying to teach the person a lesson or if you're trying to serve the greater good, but this idea that we can just pummel people into seeing things our way is disgusting. Okay, there's that. But the partisanship that comes out, because and look, I'm not denying that there is racism in our system. Okay, I think that the drug war has proven to be certainly racially motivated, and I don't know if it's because poor black ghettos are the low-hanging fruit for the drug war, or if Dearborn is the low-hanging fruit for the war on terror. I think it's a lot of racial profiling involved, and when you see the headline for what's happening, when something's happening involving a black person, the word thug tends to make an appearance, right, in the coverage. And when a white person is being covered in the news, the words mentally unstable tend to make an appearance. And I don't know if that's racist, but there could be a case made, I guess, if I were to dig a little further and check the propensity of headlines and the word choice of these headlines and these reporters, and I go back far enough, I might be able to make a case for bigotry, but not racism. Racism has an inherent um, superior-inferior dichotomy built into it. It's not just any bigotry. It's racially motivated bigotry that entails that one side, one is superior or inferior to another race. Okay, there is that. And it's the belief that that's true. So if you believe that your race is inferior, you're just as much a racist as the clan who believes that their race is superior. So it goes both ways. That's racism. So I don't know if I see that per se in the coverage of these topics, but then I see, well, people think, well, you get your news from Fox or from MSNBC, therefore you're a racist. How can you listen to this racist swirl, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go so far as to say, I'm perfectly willing to say that, statists have their misgivings, and we can go for days on that list. But inherently racist, that's too far. And you know what? And I will say it for both sides. Despite the fact that the Klan found its beginnings with the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party used to be the most racist institution in the United States, and despite the fact that the Republicans were responsible for the inception of the NAACP, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that either side has kind of hijacked the other in some way. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter how much government you want in your daily soup is not indicative of how racist you are. But I will say this about any political persuasion. You can find a reason and you can find a home in it as a racist. Racists can root themselves in any political persuasion they want. Because everything that they do, every vote, every position they hold is racially motivated to begin with. Right? So let me give you an example of how this works. Because, this is ultimately leading to the fact that I get the finger pointed at me daily saying how ANCAPs are misogynistic, racist, sexist, fucking every ist. We're all these terrible things ANCAPs are, and inherently so. I posted a simple definition of voluntaryism, and I said that it only asks that every exchange and every association be consensual and voluntary between adults or between children, even to the extent that they understand consent. That is consensual, mutual, that there's no force involved. And I'm like, and therefore everybody's a racist and a bigot and all this shit. Well, in my experience, ANCAPs are racist. Oh, okay. In your experience, therefore, the entire group of people who subscribe to this philosophy must be. Okay. That's the collectivism, right? Explain yourself. Explain why all you people, all your people, this is the type of argumentation I hear, and it drives me nuts. Anyway, this is how a bigot or a racist even could find a home in any political persuasion. Okay? Let me just give you the top ways. And I'm not denying. Here's the thing: I'm not denying that there are racists within, that fall under or consider themselves to be anti. That's the difference between me and the partisan assholes. They think that they're absolved. They think, oh, well, they're not here. Yeah, they are. Sure, they are. Why not? A racist is just as, they're here like everybody else. As non-racist, everybody has to have, everybody's going to have their political persuasions. I mean, why wouldn't they be there? Let me tell you how it works. Okay? So you could be the racist that says, oh, those poor brown and black people. They can't I mean, they're pathetic. They need, I mean, here, give them something. Give them some crumbs off of our table or something. Somebody put a quarter in their cup, for God's sake. God, this is, I mean, it's just, I mean, I could never deal directly with them, but certainly we can find something lying around here in the coffers to give them, right? Here, give them some programs. The poor things, they can't do anything for themselves. They're sweet pets. Let's just, you know, they're I mean, look at those big doe eyes. I mean, they're adorable. Give them something. Right? There's that racist. There's the racist who says if so much as a dime of welfare money goes to a black or a brown person, I'm against the program. I don't want any of my money going towards black and brown people. Fuck them. Yeah, that's why I'm against food stamps. I'm against food stamps because somewhere in there is my money and it's going to a black person. And that pisses me off. You could be that person, right? Now, the former is your typical Democrat. Oh, if you don't help them, you're the racist. I'm the one who cares about them. After all, aren't I giving them money? Aren't I giving them money? Aren't I giving them something, something off of my table? They can't do a damn thing for themselves without a little help. I mean, look at me. Here I am, just marinating in my privilege, and these poor people are just, I mean, they just, I mean, they don't know. They can't. It's impossible. You got to give them something. And if you don't, you hate black people. I don't hate black people. I embrace black people. That's the typical liberal. And then there's, the conservative side of things. I'm just against all programs that go to black people. Yeah, I'm against that. So if it goes to black people, I don't want it. I'm not against programs because they're economically unsound. I'm against programs because they go to black people. And that's the conservative side of racism, right? And of course, they cloak it with, well, I'm not, I, I'm not saying I don't like black people. I'm just saying everybody got to do got to do their own. They got to take care of themselves, and black people should be able to take care of themselves just like white people. I believe everybody should be just taking care of themselves, and nobody should be taking care of other people. And if they want to take care of you, just go and knock on their door and go to their church. They'll help you if you need help, and that'll be it. Right? One cloaks it with sympathy, and the other one cloaks it with self-sufficiency. But at the end of the day, it serves their racist purposes, and that's fine. They're always going to be there. You can't, and there's no way to change the policies to make it non-conducive to a racist. As long as you're staying within the statist realm, right? If you've got the liberal and conservative thing going, there is no way you're going to change the policy. Here's food stamps. I'm just going to put food stamps out there. Are food stamps inherently racist? No, they're not. They're inherently theft, but they're not inherently racist. Okay, but the person who's for them isn't necessarily not a racist, and the person who's against them isn't necessarily a racist. But the person who's for them could be a racist, and the person who's against them could also be a racist. You can have racist motivation for being for or against food stamps. Okay, a completely benign program that's just sitting there being food stamps, you can have racial motivations to support it or be against it. So it has nothing to do with whether or not the party begets racism. It's that if your racist inclination exists, you're going to find a home for them. You could have racist libertarians. The thing is that libertarians, and you got to put the FSP aside because they're posturing right now. But in general, the philosophy allows for people to be racist, right? I mean, here you can have people like Al Gore Sr. who voted against the Civil Rights Act. His ass was a racist. He was a bigoted asshole. Okay, he's just a dick. That's all there is. And he made no bones about it. It got him to prominence in Tennessee. His political prominence was largely attributable to the fact that he shared in the racist, ideologies of the time and his district. So there you go. Okay. Now, Al Gore Jr. will claim that he's not. I don't know. I don't know. You can mask it into all sorts of shit. But at the end of the day, Dad voted against the Civil Rights Act. I'm against the Civil Rights Act, okay? But I'm not against the Civil Rights Act because of black people. I'm against the Civil Rights Act because it takes away free choice of, freedom of association. Okay, it precludes that. So there is non-racist and non-racially motivated reasons to be against the Civil Rights Act, and there are racist reasons to be against the Civil Rights Act. Okay? And likewise, there are racist motivations for why you're going to be for the Civil Rights Act, and there's non-racist reasons to be for the Civil Rights Act. You can take both sides, and racists can find a home on either side of the fence. Okay? So the idea that you can, and the same with libertarians. Libertarians, by and large, like I said, put the FSP aside for a second, libertarians, by and large, don't care that racists are there. That's kind of the difference. That's why ANCAPs are like, yeah, okay. Well, now you know who the racists are. Avoid them if you don't like it, if it bugs you that much, right? We don't tuck our racists in the shadows. We let them come out. We let them come out so you know exactly where they are. Well, you think hiding them in a corner is the best thing? You don't even see their faces, so you wouldn't recognize them if you saw them. No, in libertarianism, especially as ANCAP, you bring your shit, tote your shit out here. Sell your racist shit. See if somebody wants to buy it. Oh, nobody's buying your shit today. Well, I don't know. You might want maybe this will call for a little bit of introspection. Maybe you're just going to continue to be the person you're being. Yeah, libertarians don't look for policies against racism, per se. We're looking for ways to preserve everybody's, even the racist, individual rights. Okay? That they still have a right to property no matter how loathsome you might find their worldview, and that they still have a right to their own life and to defend it, and they have a right to associate with whomever, and they have a right to disassociate from whoever they wish. That those rights are non-negotiable, and that they're not contingent upon how socially tolerant you are. Okay? Now, there is a certain amount of things, there's a certain generalization you can make about each party. You can say, that by and large, and I'm not saying 100%, so please don't tell me about the little exceptions that you find. By and large, Democrats like to control society economically, hence the regulations and the taxation. That's their big platform. And by and large, conservatives like to control socially, hence their platform being the more social issues. So then you have the libertarian who believes that can be done in some limited fashion, right? So we can limit the compulsions of either side in some way to an acceptable level, to a low level. They suffer a delusion, and that's okay. You're at least your rhetoric's good. It stops at a certain point, but it's good. The capital L libertarian, and the ANCAP just simply says, "I don't want to control you at all." Right? I'm willing to have a conversation about stuff. That's not to say that the ANCAP doesn't have an opinion as an individual towards various things. You can be an ANCAP and still say, yeah, I'm against abortion. I'm just not looking for legislation to compel you not to have an abortion. I'd rather have the conversation about it. I'd rather use education. I'd rather use literature. I'd rather use dialogue and discourse, because in the end, a person who is convinced through reason to abandon or to accept any given lifestyle choice or any sort of practice, it's far more indelible and lasting than a person who does things simply out of force. Right? If I'm extolling the virtues of being truthful, right, and I tell you lying is wrong, I don't see why. I'm going to keep lying. Now, I could beat it out of you, enhanced interrogation tactics and spanking and whatnot. We can do that. And you're just going to either A, stop lying, or B, just not get caught, right? But you still haven't learned why lying is wrong. Or I can explain it to you and I can give you real world examples and I could emulate, what could happen and why it would be in their best interest to be truthful, right? And then if they were convinced, they would take it upon themselves not to lie. They would never have to worry about getting caught. I would never have to worry about monitoring their truthfulness. And it goes that way. But the partisanship that I see in politics in general is always there, and it usually begins with this collectivist mentality. All Republicans are this, all Democrats are that, all Libertarians are this, all ANCAPs are that, all ANCOMs are this. There's certain things that are not inherent in the philosophy. I've read the Democratic platform. Okay. And I've read the Republican platform. I've read them. I went to their website, and this is their actual platform. This is what they're predicated on. Now, the fact that somebody would take poetic license as an individual and take it in one direction and another, that then address it with that person. Right? Address those discrepancies with that person. But otherwise, the party stands for this. Okay, that's very simple. ANCAPs are even more simple. They're just saying everything has to be voluntary. We really don't care what it is. If it's voluntary and you're not imposing yourself on another person, you're not violating another person's rights, I guess go for it. And have fun. Be safe. Wish you the best. That's it. That's the platform. And so I mean it's a kind of a one tenet thing where as long as there's no force involved, as long as no one's telling you what to do without your consent, you're all set. That's kind of it. So, I mean, which it gives a tremendous amount of latitude for all sorts of things. All right. The conservatives will be like, well, you want to be on the subway with a bunch of crackheads? Is that it? Like I'm not now, like if I get on the subway, everyone's sober now, thanks to the freaking drug war, you know, and, and liberals are saying, well, so now you're just going to have an even greater disparity between the rich and the poor. Not really. Not without a government giving preference to a certain class of people on a regular basis through the regulatory system. And, not without any sort of corporate personhood or IP. I don't understand how you could have such a disparity. Well, you'd have rich people. You'd have a bunch of, decent earners here. You'd have a lot more decent earners. You'd have a larger middle class is what you'd have, essentially. And you'd have poor people. But, I mean, the thing is that I'm not in denial about there being poor people any more than I'm in denial about there being racist. Okay, but I don't care that they're there. All right, and unless I'm dealing with them specifically in some way, I really don't care. I just acknowledge that they're there. I'm not in any denial about it. And it's not a partisan issue. But this is the type of bickering. Oh, all you Republicans are racist. Oh, all you liberals are racist. All you freaking ANCAPs are racist. No. There are racists who have found a home for themselves in these various ideologies. Okay. Now, I'm not. I'm also not, going to deny the fact that on most libertarian threads and on most, anarcho threads, I've seen the decisions regress. They start off, fairly intelligible, and then towards the end, you've got all the Hitler memes, making puns about, how furious they are, and things like that. I see that, but the jokes are the jokes, and you can say they're terrible and all of that stuff. Okay, but at the end of the day, racism is more than just a joke. Racism is what motivates you, is the impetus behind everything you do. Okay? As a racist, it literally controls your life. Okay? I mean, because you have to hate somebody so much that you would build your life around that and cater to it. That's what bigotry tends to do. I mean, if you're a bigot, and on any level, you can be a socioeconomic bigot, you can be a racial bigot, you can be a gender bigot, You can be all sorts, you can be all sorts of bigotry. A religious bigot. You can be any of that, and you tend to gravitate toward your own, and you bar yourself from the rest. You limit yourself, right? I mean, a white supremacist does not look to intermingle with black people. They tend to keep to themselves, to be honest. They don't come out into the black ghettos and try to conquer it. They just stay in their little hovels and keep amongst themselves and do things amongst themselves. They tend to stay in their corner. What they don't do is explore the rest of the world. People supremacists going out and saying, "Yeah, I want to be worldly." No, not really. They're not. Their mentality isn't worldly, and it would probably freak them out to be amongst people of different races and cultures. So why would they? But they tend to stay themselves. But they have their own political persuasions. It's kind of funny. Like they're the quirky. I mean, to me, they're just. I mean, I certainly don't condone or approve or subscribe to any of it, but they're kind of just the quirky relatives of the human race. They're there, kind of like, yeah, he's not 100%. They're kind of, and they have their protests and they have their little meetings and whatnot, but there they are. But know where they are. That's not. You could have a bunch of Republicans in that group. You could have a bunch of Democrats in that group. You can have a bunch of Libertarians in that group. I don't know, but I don't care. It's not about the partisanship, but the partisanship is what drives me nuts. Because we're looking for new generalizations for how to depict, how to deride the other side. Either your platform can stand on its own or it can't. Okay? Either the things your party offers or doesn't offer sells itself, on the merits, or it doesn't. Now, the question is, does your party actually practice those tenets? Now that people are sold on the tenets, does your party actually practice those tenets? Same goes for Catholics. Same goes for libertarians. Are you living up to what you say you are? Yeah. The bar is pretty low. On the ANCAP side, there's only, there's only the one thing of everything being consensual and voluntary. So if you can manage to do that every day, you've managed to be an ANCAP, whether you like it or not. It's only when you start to say, I'm going to vote for shit, and then I'm going to create policy, and I'm going to petition so and so, and I'm going to ask for this shit, and then and knowing full well that there are people against it, I'm going to impose this on people who oppose it. I'm going to impose on the opposition. When you start doing that, I don't care what measures you take and how benign you think they are, or how paltry you think they are. It's still that. You're still imposing, right? So I would say that any active political party is an imposition on society and ultimately backs themselves with force. So there is the statist who believes in using force as some method or tool for good, right? And there's the anarchist who says, nope, if they can't win on the merits, it shouldn't be done. If you have to use force to convince me that this is a good idea, it's probably not a good idea. Leave me alone. Let me opt out. Right? So that's, the partisanship, I think, it's obnoxious because it's always about this group. One person is out there and they're meant to represent the entire group of people, and every possible individual variable and every individual spin that could be taken on a given political platform. And that's not it. If you've got a gripe with a particular conservative, liberal, or anarchist, or libertarian, or whatever, then talk to that person and ask them why they are the way they are. But certainly asking me why other ANCAPs behave the way they do is not going to get you very far. I don't know what to do. Why don't you ask them? What the fuck are you asking me for? Do I look like their freaking dead mother? I'm not. No one is. I speak for myself and nobody else. If I know for a fact that somebody stands for this for XYZ reason, and I know them well enough to be able to say that, then yeah, maybe I'll volunteer. But otherwise, that's about it, you know. But I would encourage libertarians and anarchists to stay away from the partisan nonsense, you know, that argue the platforms on the merits and leave it at that. But the pejoratives and the allegations of one side being racist and misogynistic or oppressive unto itself without any sort of backing as to where you got that from and where you derived that from on their platform. That's just petty. You know, it's almost desperate. It's as desperate as an ad hom. All right, make it a good one. Catch you next week. Bye.